ABC-7 Extra.
Good evening, I'm Saul Sainz, and this is ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. Thank you for sharing your Sunday evening with us. El Pasoans have witnessed the evolution of downtown over the decades, from the implosion of the City Hall for the construction of Southwest University Park to the construction of El Paso's newest high-rise, the West Star Building. But there's another possible project in the horizon which could change the face of downtown El Paso forever. It's the I-10 Deck Plaza, an entire park over the I-10 freeway. The ambitious project would call on workers to build a multi-million-dollar deck over I-10 in the downtown area and create a 12-acre park filled with biking trails and other amenities. One of the project's goals is to connect downtown with surrounding neighborhoods like Sunset Heights. This design gives us a better understanding of where the proposed project would be built, going from north to south. It stretches from Sunset Heights neighborhood to downtown. But like other large projects, it does not come without controversy. Opponents say it should not come attached to the reimagined I-10 segment 2 widening project, a TxDOT project which will add lanes to the freeway in the downtown area. And opponents also question the need to demolish several buildings, one of them an historic building, to make way for the widening project. Then there's funding. TxDOT is funding Reimagine I-10, but it's not saying if they'll fund Deck Park. So where is the money for Deck Park coming from? And what is the price tag for a project that will forever change the face of downtown El Paso? Here to talk to us about this project, the future, and its viability is Cito Negron. Cito is the president of Sunset Heights Neighborhood Improvement Association. Also joining us is Tracy Yellen. Ms. Yellen is the CEO of the Paso del Norte Community Foundation. That group is looking to secure funds for the design and engineering work for the proposed deck park. And also joining us is Eduardo Calvo, Executive Director with the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization. I want to welcome all three of you. Thank you so much for sharing your Sunday evening with us. Let's start with you, Ms. Yellen. Please give our viewers our best argument as to why I-10 Deck Plaza should move forward. Is it something that we need or something that just would look nice in downtown El Paso?
Yeah, sure. So deck plazas are really a phenomenon that are happening across the country. We've learned a lot about them in other cities like Dallas and Phoenix and Seattle and Oklahoma City. There are a number of them that are on the books also in Texas and Austin, and a second deck plaza in Dallas. And as we look at the opportunity to build this unique amenity for our community, we feel that with the infrastructure bill that was recently passed by Congress and signed by the President Biden, with funding for transportation for the state of Texas, that we really have this once in a generation opportunity to add this green space amenity. And really what it's designed to do is to create a green space over I-10, as you said, that would connect the greater downtown area, south of I-10, and the areas north of I-10 that connect the Rio Grande neighborhoods, UTEP, El Paso Community College, the Sunset Heights neighborhoods, to create, hike and bike space, green space, entertainment space, and a real attraction, not just for the residents around that area, but for our entire region.
Cito, you have some reservations about the widening project being linked to the Park Deck project. What are those reservations, and how does your group feel about Deck Park?
Absolutely. Well, the project is 6 miles, right, from Copia to Executive. So the Deck Park would initially, if it was built as proposed in the raised grant application, it would be built over a few blocks. And so it doesn't really address the core issues of the increased truck traffic, especially the increased pollution, noise, all the negative effects of the freeway on neighborhoods east of downtown. And frankly, Sunset Heights and the neighborhood north of downtown already are connected. We have a very solid grid system. Whoever planned the highway the first time around, in their wisdom, as it went past downtown, they sunk it so that downtown would remain connected to the neighborhoods north of it. Where the deck park would go is not immediately adjacent to any particular neighborhood, but it would be accessible to those neighborhoods. And so our concern really is that I don't understand why we're spending so much time talking about deck park when we really need to hammer out what needs to be done on the highway, right? The need and purpose of that project. And it's based on traffic calculations that we believe are flawed. Anybody who drives through El Paso knows that you get into traffic when you get to the Spaghetti Bowl, or you get into traffic when you pass downtown, not going through downtown. So to spend $750 million that we don't have, that we're going to be asked to contribute to by sweeping other projects in the region, doesn't make sense to us. What we need to focus on is a system that diverts truck traffic around the city using the Northeast bypass. And also, frankly, the border highway, which was a highway that just opened next to the highway they're talking about widening and adding frontage roads to. So how many highways do we need through downtown?
Yeah, you're talking about the bottlenose aspect of coming into downtown and how it just a lot of people are stuck in downtown. Wouldn't the widening of I-10 address it though?
Yeah, that doesn't really happen very often. It may happen for a few minutes during peak hours, but spending hundreds of millions of dollars to address a few minutes a day, when that's really not needed, or at least at this point, the need hadn't been proven, that doesn't make sense. We need to get the traffic, especially the truck traffic, out of the downtown area as much as possible. That'll do more to increase quality of life for neighborhoods, not just that neighborhoods adjacent to downtown, but also the neighborhoods east of downtown.
Mr. Calvo, let's bring you in on the conversation. You just heard Cito Negron talk about diverting traffic from the downtown area to other parts of El Paso. Is that feasible?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation again. Actually, the bypass that he's talking about, the Borderland Expressway or the Northeast bypass, yeah, would help us divert some traffic away from I-10, but it's really a very small amount of traffic that would be diverted. Just to give you an idea, we have about 200,000 vehicles circulating on downtown every day on average. If you go out to the state line, we have about 22,000, right? So even if you assume that all those vehicles that are at the state line are through trips, in other words, that we use a bypass, you're just taking out a very, very small number of vehicles. What does that mean? That most of the people that circulate, that use I-10, it's us. A lot of it is local traffic, right? So if you live on the west side and want to go downtown, you're not going to use the Northeast, the Northeast Parkway or that bypass, right? When it comes also to truck traffic, yes, we do have a fair amount of trucks that are traveling through downtown El Paso on I-10 that are coming in from California to points east of El Paso. However, a lot of the trucks that you see there are also coming in from Ciudad Juarez, from the ports of entry, right? And those trucks will, cross through the Bridge of the Americas, through the Zaragoza bridge, or through Santa Teresa to the west. And all of these trucks gravitate towards I-10. So, yeah, whether we like it or not, I-10 is the backbone of our regional transportation system.
Okay,
So
we're going to continue.
It can only help so much.
Okay, we're going to continue the conversation after the break. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. ABC-7's Will Herron wanted to see what some cities have done with their versions of a deck plaza and traveled to Dallas. They constructed a deck over one of their freeways and converted it into green space. Watch Will's special report, Deck Park, Monday on ABC-7. Still ahead, I'll ask my guests about what steps are being taken to let homeowners or residents of homes near the proposed I-10 project know about possible relocating before the project gets underway. This is ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition, where news comes first.
Compared to many SUVs, a Volkswagen can save you money on maintenance. Isn't that illuminating? Now's the time to sign then drive. Hurry in during the Volkswagen Sign Then Drive event and lease a new 2022 Atlas for 0 down, 0 deposit, 0 first month's payment, and 0 due at signing.
I was in foot pain for 20 years. I bought all these products and not a single one worked. When I drove past the Good Feet store, I thought, I'm gonna stop in. What can it hurt? They wanted to make sure that they gave me the right arch support for my feet, not somebody else's feet. And you just knew, like your feet just, when they got on the right ones, they were like, oh yeah. I'm Teresa, and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
This is a good place to shop for a Chevy. This is a good place to shop for a Chevy. And this is a good place to shop for a Chevy too. Whether you want to shop online and take delivery at home from a participating dealer or just have a dependable place to get service, discover the easy way to shop, buy, and own a Chevy. Find new ways, find new roads.
Very well qualified buyers can get 0% financing for 72 months on select popular SUV models. Plus, unlock your code to claim an additional $500 Chevy Cybercash. Visit ChevyCybercash.com today.
Shop Black Friday deals this week at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Get great deals on Nike and Adidas apparel and footwear. Buy one, get one 50% off Magellan Outdoors fishing shirts or camo apparel. And get up to 50% off fitness equipment. Shop now at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Not sure exactly what goes in your blue recycle bin? Take the City of El Paso Environmental Service Department's free recycling challenge to learn how we can flip the contamination rate from 32% to 23% by the year 2023. Become a recycling black belt today. Call, visit our website, or check out our app to find out more.
Compared to many SUVs, a Volkswagen can save you money on maintenance. Isn't that illuminating? Now's the time to sign then drive. Hurry in during the Volkswagen Sign Then Drive event and lease a new 2022 Atlas for 0 down, 0 deposit, 0 first month payment, and 0 due at signing.
Those deck plazas are proving very popular. So I think that at the time that we started the corridor study, I think that there was the potential that people were looking at a perfect way to cap I-10 to sort of stitch together uptown and downtown, and that would be sort of a healing place that, rather than what people have referred to as a scar through a community.
You just heard from Jennifer Wright with Tech Talk. Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. I also want to welcome back Cito Negron. Cito is president of Sunset Heights Neighborhood Improvement Association. Also joining us is Tracy Yellen. Ms. Yellen is the CEO of the Paso del Norte Community Foundation. That group is looking to secure funds for the design and engineering work for the proposed deck plaza. And also joining us is Eduardo Calvo with El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization. Cito, I want to start with you. You just heard Jennifer Wright saying that this is basically going to stitch together both parts of downtown, Sunset Heights, neighborhoods like Sunset Heights and downtown. You don't think that that's necessary? Yeah, and she even called it quite possibly a scar. Do you think it's a scar? And you just mentioned during our first segment that you don't think it's needed.
Well, absolutely. There's a scar. The issue is that the scar is east of downtown, and especially north of the Spaghetti Bowl, right, where the Radford community was separated from the Government Hills community. And so hundreds, maybe even thousands of homes were taken out there, east of downtown, and also south of the Spaghetti Bowl in the Chamizal area. So Sunset Heights is very well connected to downtown. We have two access routes that serve for both pedestrians, bikes, and vehicles. So in terms of the connectivity, that's already there. And the deck park, in some ways, would even interrupt that because presumably it would remove some of the current streets that cross the freeway and create a nice grid system there. So there very much was a scar. It's being acknowledged even by Secretary Buttigieg of the Secretary of Transportation, who's made equity a cornerstone of this administration and how they address highway projects. And so tying what's supposed to be a healing component or a healing amenity to a highway widening is really counter to the message that we're getting from the highest levels of the federal government. We need to heal what the highway has done. And a few blocks downtown that really are a developer-driven amenity doesn't do much for environment or equity in all of the neighborhoods and all of the communities adjacent to the highway and east of downtown.
Ms. Yellen, have there been any neighborhood meetings held to talk about the proposed I-10 deck park or plaza? And wouldn't this create some green space to try to eliminate some of the concerns that Mr. Negron and his neighborhood has about the pollution that's in the area?
Right. So, with the planning money that the U.S. Department of Transportation has just awarded to the city of El Paso, the $900,000 that you'd mentioned earlier, we have the opportunity to bring in a design team, engineers, and really host a public input process so that we can hear from people what kind of amenities they'd like to see in this green space, what the footprint looks like, how do we better connect the Sunset Heights neighborhood, the Rio Grande neighborhood. We have so many residents of our region that cross over I-10 on foot daily from the South El Paso neighborhood, from Chihuahuita, from north going south. And so, would we love to be able to cover the entire highway with green space? That would be amazing. But we think that this is a really great place to start. And we get to hear from the community on what they'd like to see. We know how popular and important green spaces are for community, how highly utilized they are. We know that we don't have enough green space in that downtown footprint. And so this gives us the opportunity to add it. In addition, we have been working on the Pasa del Norte Trail Master Plan, which is an idea of creating a 68-mile trail across El Paso County. We would be able to connect the trail from Sunset Heights through the plaza, but then also to connect to other neighborhoods as you either just at I-10 to the Chamizal, south to Alameda, that would go to the MCA. So it really creates greater circulation and greater activity and connectivity of all of our neighborhoods.
Mr. Calvo, what is the Metropolitan Planning Organization's role in talking about this, the DEC Plaza?
Well, the main duty of the MPO is really look at transportation and making sure that we have an efficient transportation network in the region. Plus, we're also responsible for all the air quality issues that result from transportation. But so the DEC Plaza, in my opinion, and the project, by the way, has the support of the policy board of our of the MPO that the board is made up of all most of the elected officials in the region, both in El Paso and parts of southern Doña Ana County. But so the DEC Plaza is supported by the MPO because it really is a great complement to the transportation project that Xtra is planning, Reimagine Segment 2. Again, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, even though at this point we're looking at them as separate projects, but the DEC Plaza would be a tremendous complement to the transportation project that is so needed.
Okay.
We need to rebuild I-10, especially in the downtown area. The pavement is falling apart as you drive it, and there's a lot of stuff that Xtra needs to be patching. So that area needs to be rebuilt. So but again, the DEC Plaza is a tremendous opportunity. It's a great complement to that project. So they go together very well.
All right. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, I'll ask my guests if they have an idea when these projects will be completed once all the T's and I's are crossed and the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. We'll find out after the break.
Don't miss huge Black Friday savings this Wednesday at Ashley Home Store. From 10 a.m. to midnight, save 30% off store-wide with no minimum purchase. It's the biggest sale of the year. Wednesday only, 10 a.m. to midnight at Ashley Home Store.
Surprise!
It's a new Buick.
You got me a new Buick?
And there are more gifts inside. Is this a rear vision camera?
Yes, it is.
Look at the dog.
There's so many gifts in here, I don't even know where to start.
Watch this, Mom.
Alexa, turn on holiday lights.
This year, give the gift of technology in every Buick SUV. Get $3,750 purchase cash on this Enclave Essence. Plus, current eligible Buick owners get $500 additional allowance.
See your El Paso Las Cruces Buick dealers.
The unknown is not empty. It's a storm that crashes and consumes, replacing thought with worry. But one thing can calm uncertainty. An answer, uncovered through exploration, teamwork, and innovation. An answer that leads to even more answers. Mayo Clinic, you know where to go.
Black Friday starts now at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso. But you can skip the line because these doorbuster deals last all month long. Save thousands with 0% financing up to 48 months, plus no payments for 90 days on all 2021 and 2022 Hyundai models in stock. That's no interest and no payments for 90 days. Or sign and drive with zero due at signing, zero cash out of pocket on new Elantras, Sonatas, Santa Fe's, Tucsons, and Konas. Black Friday starts now at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso.
Ashley Home Store's Black Friday is here. Doors open Friday at 7 a.m. Shop huge doorbusters like this sofa, now only $299. Plus, be one of the first in line and get $200 Ashley cash. 7 a.m. to midnight, Friday only at Ashley Home Store.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. Also, welcome back to Cito Negron with the Sunset Heights Neighborhood Improvement Association and Tracy Yellen with the Paso del Norte Community Foundation, as well as Eduardo Calvo with El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm going to start again with you, Cito. Is there any way that your neighborhood association has voiced several objections to, at the very least, the I-10 widening project? Can your group raise roadblocks to these projects if your demands or requests are not met?
Well, you're absolutely right. Our focus is on the unnecessary highway widening, the expense of it, and the impact on, the amount of money that's going to be available for projects in the community. There was something very interesting in the earlier segment about, the footprint. In Clyde Warren Park, for example, they didn't widen the highway. They were able to do the deck within the existing footprint. So if there was a deck plan that did not require widening the highway and didn't increase the traffic for other neighborhoods that are adjacent to the highway that wouldn't have access to that amenity, that's a different discussion. And then it's really more of a community discussion about the cost and who's going to pay for it and those types of things. So really our focus is on, and they tell, we hear different things. We've had people tell us, frankly, that they don't like the highway widening, but they really want the deck part. And so they're willing to push or allow the widening. And so our goal is really, if this is a process that has not yet been decided, then, we're going to make our best arguments and try to change the design of the highway so it doesn't get widened and doesn't have frontage roads. The problem is we're also being told behind the scenes by people that this is a done deal and why are you fighting it?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I don't know if it's a done deal. Well, it's a done deal.
I will pose that question to Mr. Calvo. Mr. Calvo, is it a done deal? Can the deck plaza be built without the widening? Does it have to be linked to the widening reimagined?
I think technically the answer is yes. But in addition to the expansion, which I believe is necessary on I-10, there's also the need to increase or rebuild the bridges, to increase the vertical clearance of them. But the comment about this being a done deal, absolutely not. This is not a done deal. TxDOT is going right now through the process. It's a very detailed process to evaluate alternatives. So it's not a done deal. And there is plenty of opportunities for the public to participate. And in fact, like you mentioned before, there's been controversy on many other projects here in El Paso. And there's a lot of public participation that improves the project. So TxDOT is going through that process. So it's absolutely not a done deal.
Eduardo, I have to say, I'm very happy to hear that. And I'd really love to pose the question to Tracy then. Maybe we can have both. If y'all are able to push for a deck plaza that doesn't require widening the highway and join the community in opposing the health impacts and the other unnecessary aspects of that, then maybe we could get a project that would have unified community support.
Ms. Yellen?
Yeah, so I mean, the TxDOT is managing the evaluation of all the alternatives for the expansion of I-10 and what that footprint might look like. And from my understanding, the expansion is just creating the equal number of lanes on either side of I-10 as there exist on either side of I-10. The deck park is very flexible. So whatever the final alternative that TxDOT selects, we're hoping that they include the deck plaza as part of that solution. And so if there isn't a widening or adding of lanes, or if they're able to add the lanes within the same number of footprints, great. We look forward to being able to construct the plaza over that space. And so, what we're able to do, we're hoping, is with the design and engineering process and a public input process on the deck itself, is really talk about amenities, what the green space looks like, the best configuration of that space given TxDOT's parameters, and then how we piece together the funding. Really, with the U.S. Department of Transportation and the infrastructure bill, they actually have a set aside for funding of projects like this that put a green space over freeways and neighborhoods that were separated historically by freeways. And so this is the opportunity we have. This is the conversation we want to have with the community about what they'd really like to see for this area.
Ms. Yellen, Tracy Yellen, Cito Negron, and Mr. Calvo, Eduardo Calvo, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us on this Sunday evening. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us as you prepare for the work week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next Sunday on ABC-7 Extra. I'm Saul Saenz. Good night y buenas noches.